All right, so here is how each of the Game of Thrones stars have reacted to the show's final season. Also, I'm going to tell you how some actors seem frustrated, how Kit Harington responded on several places, how Sophie responds several places, and HBO losing way more of their subscribers than they could have ever hoped for. And in the end, we'll check out what we are going to find out about the prequel and what everyone knows up to now. But let's start out over here. Here's how each Game of Thrones star reacted to the final. We're going to start with Cersei Lannister. Let's go ahead and scroll down. We need to start, though, right around here because she gives us, like all of the actors, except for maybe one, they give us their thoughts. So, Cersei or Lena wasn't fazed by her fate, telling Entertainment Weekly she had mixed feelings but grew to accept what lay in store. Quote, wanted her to have a big peace or fight with somebody, but the more we talked about it, the more it seemed like the perfect end. I think the important thing is that Jaime had a chance at freedom and finally liberated himself from Cersei, which I think the audience will be thrilled about, but I think the biggest surprise is he came back for her. It may be the first time that Cersei has been at peace. She also posted the following Instagram video, so let's take a quick look at it. It's actually kind of funny. Here you go. That's really about all. It's funny, though. Now, let's get into some more of the controversial reactions. You won't believe what Tyrion Lannister says. And Jon Snow, well, he's been responding to the backlash along with other actors. So Kit spoke very little during its embers as he strives to keep the final twist under wraps, blah, blah, blah. But he talks about his reaction to the show ending. And as he goes down, Harington also spoke about how he felt with his last read-through. It was strange, isn't it? It always is with a movie and TV. I guess you expect the big fanfare of like, because it ended for you, it ends for everybody. But really on the final day, they've gone to move on to do something else. That's why it felt like being skinned. It was like, right, we got to get this off because we're going to move on and shoot Macy Williams. It's brutal. But we've got more with Kit Harington over here. Jon Snow may know nothing. As Ygritte, I always say her name wrong. Ygritte. Anyway, I think it's going to divide, he told Entertainment Weekly, in which Jon kills Targaryen. But if you track her story, she does terrible things. So he tries to justify this decision. And we're all fine with, I get it, man. We're all fine with what Dany becoming the Mad Queen. It's almost expected. We almost know it. It's alluded to throughout the entire thing. But when you shorten it, it's like we needed a season for the battle at Winterfell, needed a season for the going to Cersei, needed a season, and in those seasons, more leading towards her becoming the Mad Queen, and then the season of the end. And I think it got cut all into one season, and that's where the problems are. And the actors are going to agree with that in just a second. Let's get back here because Peter Dinklage gives us a huge clue at how all of the actors feel. Let me tell you what he said. He said people met, married, and broke up on the show and went on to say it was life for a lot of people. But Dinklage wasn't doing much press on his character, but in a previous interview with Entertainment Tonight, he said the following, quote, now, I have to read the whole thing, okay? You got to see the end part. That's where we get a little bit of a clue. Quote, there are no better writers in television than DB and David. They ended it brilliantly, better than I could have imagined, and you people are in for it. Now, right there it says, high praise, except for the fact that Dinklage appeared to roll his eyes. You know these guys are under contract. They probably can't say anything bad right after it happened. You got to give it time to be watched by everyone. But that really says a lot, doesn't it? Well, even more people, even more of the actors and actresses chimed in. So they talk a lot about Emilia Clarke. Anyway, she told Deadline how much she enjoyed the character. She talked about getting hired and how she didn't even know what IMDb was. It was an incredible journey. Then she said, quote, And then each season, she transforms into a different person. Each season, she grows and summons strength that's beyond my own, but is brought about a resilience within myself. Getting to play her standing on a mountain and speaking to 700 supporting artists in a different language, you got to grow some balls. But in an interview from HBO, Emmy's Party last year, which has been doing its rounds. Now, I know you've seen it. I've seen it. Some of you may not have seen it yet. Even if you have seen it, it's good to watch again, because this was the main clue we had to the ending. Take a listen.
Have you shot your final scenes yet? And are you happy with how things ended? Yes. She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes.
Best season ever.
Yes.
Best season ever. Best season ever.
Best season ever, in a sarcastic tone. Of course, her character dies. She's probably discussing that, but we all know, everyone thinks there should be more time. Other than maybe Arya Stark, Macy didn't necessarily respond in a way like that. You got to make it cool. Then I told my boyfriend, and he was like, should be Jon, though, shouldn't it? She talks about how Arya probably shouldn't have killed the Night King. It didn't make sense. But in the end, it all comes down to this very one moment. It's unexpected, and it's what this show does. But then Sophie Turner responds. She even responds to the petition I told you about the other day when we did our live stream. So take a listen to what she had to say. Let's jump over, though, to get her reaction. Let's jump over here. Sophie Turner on Game of Thrones, Sansa's End, and disrespectful fan reactions. I'm not going to bore you with the rest. Of course, you could search any of these articles and read them. But fans' react this season has been much more negative than in previous seasons. Were you surprised by the vitriol? Honestly, I'm not surprised. People have ideas in their heads of how they want it to finish. So when it doesn't go their liking, they start to speak out and rebel. The thing about Game of Thrones that's always been amazing is the fact that there's always been crazy twists and turns. We are not upset about twists and turns. We're upset about the fact that we got shortcut on a lot of the auxiliary information that we needed. We really had one episode where Jon Snow is in complete support of Dany, and then in the next, he's against her. It was an instantaneous thing. We had a lot. If there would have been more time, if there would have been more material, it would have made this work. Anyway, you're going to find out more when I get to Varys. But let me tell you what she said about that petition. All these petitions and things like that is disrespectful to the crew, the writers, the filmmakers. And she goes on and on and on. So you have her thoughts there. Although the petitions are more towards D&D and the writing and their choice of how they represented it. I don't think it says anything about any of the characters or actors. They all did great. But the biggest response, in my opinion, comes from Connolith Hill, who played Varys, a character that I didn't like at first, but then I ended up growing on me, and now he's one of my favorites. Still, though, the Hound outranks you, in my opinion, buddy. But nah, I mean, I love Varys. Listen to what Varys says. So he goes in to a lot about how he felt personally troubled when he died. He thought it was like something he did wrong. Okay, he said it hurt him. I took it personally. I took it as a person, not as an actor or an artist. But then he added, at the time, nothing could console me. What did I do wrong? There wasn't any pre-warning. It's almost like he's kind of telling us there was no build-up. There was no, like, you know. And remember the episode where he's writing the letters and we could have been informed of a lot more. They could have shown us where the letters went, how other people reacted. You know, you could think he would have wrote a letter to the guy we saw in the very first episode when we first met Dany. You know, the guy that was like taking care of Dany. Anyway, he also says Thrones was overwhelmingly positive and brilliant, but he felt one final thing was missing. I was very bummed not to have a final scene with Littlefinger. It would have been great to have had one more meeting. I think they tried to make that work and couldn't. It could have worked. if they had more time, if they didn't rush it together. Another complaint has been the way it seems like people are teleporting around Westeros, but it's because they're cutting scenes that are great amounts of time in between them without anything. For time's sake, you can just tell by watching it. That's not me being rude or anything to them, but that's what happened. And that's what gives that illusion, right? And then said, that's been my feeling the last couple seasons. This is the biggest one out of all of the actors. It's been my feeling the last couple seasons that my character became more peripheral, that they concentrated on others more. That's fine. It's the nature of a multi-character show, but it was frustrating. The last couple seasons weren't my favorite, said Varys. He's basically saying it. He's telling us all. And we know what's up. Just so you know, we're not the only ones that feel this way. And if Varys feels that way, you know, the spider, come on now. Anyway, we're going to move on to Gwendolyn Christie, or Brienne of Tarth, and her reaction. She talks about her character and the representation. Anyway, let me read it. I felt it was important to see a moment of choice from Brienne where she chooses to do this. She told Entertainment Weekly, Brienne's a virgin, as far as we know. She hasn't had a sexual or a romantic encounter before. In the books, the character sleeps in her armor to protect her. It's important she chooses to explore life in that way and have that experience. In an unconventional woman that we've seen grow, I enjoy that she decided to grow in a different way, said Brienne, or the actress that played Brienne. She goes on a lot more, but she says the writing is very good here. This is what makes a character three-dimensionally truly. She adds a lot more to this, to the discussion, but says this, which I think is another kind of clue to this thing that we are missing a lot of interaction, a lot of small detail, a lot that would have been given to us in previous episodes. Let me explain it. She said, if I think if you're facing and survive death, you want to experience everything. She's a woman, and that she means she has sex drive, so why shouldn't she explore it? Personally, I always wanted to see her get with Dany. So I don't know. The fact that Jaime then decided to abandon Brienne didn't only upset the fans, but Christie too. She was upset for Brienne. Even though it was just a character and she's just an actor, it's heartbreaking, but so is life. And I know it's silly, it's just a character, but I feel for her deeply. I love that she doesn't crumble from it and goes back to work. It's refreshing. Women don't have to be defined by their partner, and that's good, but my God, that's Game of Thrones, isn't it? Just when you think things are going to go well, it punches you harder than ever in the guts. Some people are going to argue that that's not really her talking about any of the other stuff going on, but I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Maybe she wasn't really alluding to anything there. Now, Natalie Emanuel talks about Littlefinger and her and how they are the, well, let me just go ahead and read it to you. So many people die, and I guess I didn't think I was safer than anyone. I'm fully aware and engaged in the conversation of representation because I'm the only woman of color in the show that's been on there regularly for many seasons. But then again, you know, Game of Thrones, in my opinion, has been very fair about anything like that. And it's like they don't consider, you know, a lot of people flipped out about the Red Wedding. They flipped out about Sansa. They flipped out about all kinds of stuff. But the show rose above it. I think that's what's important, in my opinion. If it's not an issue, we shouldn't make it one, in my opinion. But if you disagree with me, leave it in the comments. Let me just read this part, because we're going to move on to a few more things and get this done. It wasn't until she was gone that I really felt what it really meant, until I saw the outcry and the outpouring of love and outrage and upset about it. We wanted to see her interact with Cersei. We wanted to see her, because she was like captured on the Iron Fleet, taken back to King's Landing, did get to interact with Cersei. We were left out that, obviously, for time's sake. It's just another example, right? So, I really had wished that I had more time or scenes with Daenerys or even Cersei, scenes where we get to see her being brilliant before she dies. We would have seen that if this season wasn't rushed. That's what this whole show focused on. Okay. Now, you're on Greyjoy. He gives a few clues. I'm going to try to get through this quicker. I don't want to eat up a lot of your time. Anyway, it went from a passion relationship to professional. It's my job. It's not my girlfriend. Because he said he hasn't watched it since season 6. Season 6 is where this whole thing I'm discussing becomes painfully obvious. I think these are the little clues left by the cast to let us know there is something up here. They feel it too. And the only thing that changed was they ran out of material on the books, and they had to really do a lot more of the writing for themselves. Let's get into Isaac. Let's get into Bran Stark. He did become king, right? How did he feel about the ending? Let's find out. Even though we haven't heard a lot from him, he did address the moment that they laid eyes on another in Hollywood Reporter. Then went on to say that while the first episode was full of joviality, the rest of the season might not follow quite as happily, and boy, was he right. Wright also spoke to Winter is Coming about that long final look between Bran and the Night King. The reason behind that wasn't actually in the script, but the director and I came up with the idea that the look Bran gives the Night King is one of pity. Bran saw the creation of the first White Walker. He realizes he was once just a normal guy who was forcibly strapped to a tree. He didn't ask to become this raving, crazy ice killer, so it's a bit like Frankenstein's monster scenario. Which, by the way, kind of contradicts everything we ever heard about how the Night King isn't just a one-dimensional enemy. We always saw, like, the babies being carried north. We saw... I don't want to get deep into it. It'll take forever. You know what I'm saying. It just seems like it is a one-dimensional enemy now, right? That's really crazy. I haven't read what the Hound said. I read the rest of it, so let's see what the Hound said. Okay, talks about the Clegane Bowl, something fans have been waiting for. We had this sparring session in season 1, and this was the end of the journey, a completion. I'm so grateful they decided to write that in. It was a lot of fun. And speaking of Clegane Bowl, I'd written myself off once the fight started. There's a chance by the end of it, Sandor is probably blinded and that he's pretty broken up, but he had enough energy to complete his mission and stuff his brother's face in the fire, even if it meant ending his life. I think the Hound would have been quite happy with that. I think he knew when he rode out with Arya and said, I don't plan on coming back. Well, let's hear what Gendry had to say. His own bloody, he was being ordered to take his own bloody pants off by Arya. The skilled assassin thought that there was possibility she might die at the hands of the White Walker. We all know that. Speaking to Esquire, Joe Dempsey, who initially felt strange, grew to appreciate the importance. I found the subsequent conversation actually really interesting. That's really all that's said there. So really, that article does a lot to explain how some of the actors felt. It gives us clues. Game of Thrones actors seem as frustrated by the finale as you are, as written here from Slate. Let's see what they have to add in, and we're going to get out of here after we hit these articles quickly. So, this talks about the plastic water bottle. I meant to tell you about this in the beginning of the recording, but I don't remember if I did or not. But behind Samwell's foot is a hidden water bottle. And as the scenes change and move, you can see little glimpses of it again. You know, it's crazy, but they'll probably edit this out. This actually was in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Gratifying then to revisit the reactions of some of the only people who preemptively knew what the ending would bring. So, Isaac Hempstead, when I got to the Daenerys scene in the last episode and they're like, what about Bran? I had to get up and face around the room. Hempstead told Entertainment Weekly, I thought it was a joke script and that the showrunners sent to everybody a script with their own character ends up on the Iron Throne. Yeah, good one, guys. Wait, it's actually real? So he thought it was a joke script that was given out to stop leaks from spreading around. But we knew that this leak came out a while ago that Bran was going to be the king. And there was a guy on YouTube who predicted this also. After the episode aired Sunday, the actor tweeted this rather than a cryptic emoji combo. King, crown, and man shrugging. Like, what? And though he did write in a guest column on The Hollywood Reporter that he was thrilled with the way the show ended, the actor also told EW, I kind of did want to die and get one good death scene with an exploding head or something. Emilia Clarke told The New Yorker of learning the character's fate, I remember the boys, our writers and showrunners, telling me that Daenerys' arc is that of Lawrence of Arabia. I watched Lawrence of Arabia. Great, cool, he's brilliant, he survived, it's wonderful, but then you remember how that movie ended with Lawrence disintegration. I don't quite put those two things together. To EW, the actress said the finale felt as if it comes out of nowhere. flabbergasted. Never saw it coming. In the same interview, she added, "It was a struggle reading the scripts. What I was taught in drama school, I was told that your character is right. Your character makes a choice and you need to be right with that. An actor should never be afraid to look ugly. We have uglier sides to ourselves." And finally, there's a now infamous Entertainment Tonight video that I played for you earlier. So anyway, let's go down to see what they say about Kit Harington. Looked at Amelia. There was a moment of me realizing, no. He was crying at that point. Clarke chimed in. As for his take on what fans will think of the finale, he said, "I think it's going to divide. One of my worries is we have Cersei and Dany, two leading women who fall." As for critics, he told Esquire they can go fuck themselves. So he's telling the critics to fuck off. Perhaps the most telling is when, during a video interview with Pop Buzz, he was asked to describe the season finale in one word, and he jokingly said, "disappointing." I figure a lot of you have seen it, but take a look.
If you could describe the season finale of Game of Thrones in one word, how would you describe it?
He says disappointing. They're going to make us go through all of it. Go ahead and take a look and watch it from Pop Buzz. Kit Harington says Game of Thrones finale is disappointing. Yes. So anyway, Edie was initially dissatisfied with the demise, telling EW, we already read all that. And Jaime Lannister, we didn't hear what he said in the last article. So in an interview with Vanity Fair, he cautioned the final season may feel rushed. Well, it was rushed. We're used to having a whole season to get to that point, and now suddenly a lot of things happen quickly. Trying to connect the dots between the scenes was complicated. You invest so much time, so many years in the characters. When you suddenly find out Jaime comes back and his son has committed suicide, there's no many things. Obviously can't go through one screen all of these moments. Wait a minute. That was like from... Oh, they're talking about a different... they just must have added that in because, it feels rushed. Well, we all think it feels rushed. Dinklage told Vulture it was given a very good conclusion. His expression, at least, was one viral video clip suggested. Otherwise, is this where he rolls his eyes? Okay, hold up. Let's see.
How do you feel about the way that it ends?
There are no better writers in television than Dan Weiss and
Here it is.
David Benioff. They ended it brilliantly, better than I could have imagined, and you people are in for it.
How do you feel
Wait,
about
wait. Oh, do it again. Do it
In for
again. Oh yeah, there it is. To E! News, Christy said, "You're gonna need therapy," and then she posted this on Instagram. Oh, Macy says, "Just here for the memes." By now, as unfortunate as it is, we all are. So anyway, also Kit Harington, Jon Snow added, "Thrones fans mad about Daenerys? You're culpable. You cheered her on." And Sophie Turner says on Sansa's Inn, and I read you that part. Anyway, Game of Thrones is gone, and so are a lot of the HBO subscribers. Even to the point where people are stating that the commercial in the beginning of the episode was like, hey, look at all of our other shows. You don't have to quit your subscription. It didn't work. I skipped it. I hit play, skipped ahead of the commercial, right to the intro of the show. I knew what they were doing. And here's what we got on the prequel. Let me get out of here. This is going over 20 minutes, and I didn't mean for that. But man, this stuff is too good. Game of Thrones took its final bow, but with the prequel already announced, fans don't have to wait long till their Westeros-shaped hole is filled once again. What is it going to be called? No official title. They brandished about it. According to some of the reports, it's going to be referred to as Blood Moon. I hope that's a code word. That would not be good. Previously referred to the pilot as The Long Night. Yeah, that would work a lot better. When is it set? 5,000 years before the events in Game of Thrones. The Night King, played by Slovak actor Vladimir Furtik, will feature in the prequel. Now, hold on. Could that solve some of the stuff? I got to think about that one. No, I can't think right now. I'll end up talking. What's it going to be about? Chronicles the world's descent from the golden age of heroes into its darkest hour, from the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, the mysteries of the East to the Starks of legend. Only one thing is for sure, it's not the story we think we know. So we're going to be seeing a lot of the buildup. Will this give us what we're missing with the Night King story? I don't know. It looks like we'll finally get an origin story for the Night King and the Stark Lannister backstory. No dragons, different era of Westeros, no dragons, no Iron Throne, not even a King's Landing. Oscar nominee Naomi Watts is the biggest name signed up to the prequel so far and first to be confirmed. Who else do we have? They're speculating that she could be playing Nissa, the wife of Azor Ahai. That's all we got. I really appreciate you guys watching up to now. Very much, I do. I hope you decide to stick around the channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you next time. We got a lot more for you. Appreciate you very much.